we are now really live, not pretend live, but for really live. So, really excited to have you guys, listening to us and talking. We have CC Underwood here again. And if you recall last Monday, we were going over, recruiting, growing a team. And it was a really great discussion. I personally learned a lot. And based on the comments and the feedback received after the replaying, a lot of people learned a lot. So CC, how are you this week? How's the team?
Doing phenomenal. I love Mondays.
That sounds tongue-in-cheek. So how many people do you have on your team right now?
Currently, we have 13 people.
13? Okay. So do you find that it's like both good and bad crazy now that you have 13?
It is. I think at each level you grow your team, right? If you're not creating problems, you're not growing.
Right.
So we joke about, for the contracts on our team with our agents, how it evolves every single year. We just set the expectation you're going to be signing a new contract because so much will happen in that year. This was the first time we had to deal with maternity leave. This is the first time we had to deal with agents buying investment properties. So the bigger you grow and the more successful your agents become, the more opportunities. So we're having to revise and, keep those opportunities on the team for them.
Yeah. And, I've changed a lot over the last 2 years, 3 really. And some of the change, I just assumed everybody would just join the ride, and some people don't do well with change. And so we could probably do a whole nother session on just how to handle change within a team. I could share a lot of what not to do.
Got plenty of those.
So CC, one of the things that I want to kind of go over a little bit, pick your brain on, last Monday you talked about how there was a moment several years ago where you kind of reset the team. You started down, you went down to 2 people, and you restarted it. And, we weren't really clear, and I want to dive into it. You didn't, that wasn't forced on you. That was something you chose to do, right?
Yeah, I think, when it's kind of like the, when the worlds collide.
Right. Right.
Emerges, or She-Ra, or one of those. We get to form, we get a choice.
Right.
It was a mix of everything. So I was at a point where, agents, I looked around and I had 2 agents that were underperforming, one that only wanted to perform at her standards, and the go-to to me was, I'm really loyal, I want more money. And at that point, I think you make a decision of, and I feel like a lot of people have been here where you have someone that is loyal, and you've got to make a decision. Well, do I let this person go? Do we agree that this is no longer a good fit? Or do I give in and give them more money so that they stay, so I don't have to go through that pain to hire again? And ultimately, the people that you start your business with, most of them won't be there with you, hopefully, except for your assistant. Because once you learn, it's like artificial intelligence, right? Once they learn, now it's like, ooh, now I know what I don't know. I can do more. What about this?
Right.
And the rainmakers are moving at a pace faster, and they should be, right? They're the visionary.
Right.
Than the people that are on board. So you should have healthy turnover if your mindset is to grow and make changes and adapt. Sure.
So you're looking at your team, you realize there's inefficiencies in your business, and you look at your salespeople and you realize, all right, this isn't working, or they want more money. And you just kind of have to ask yourself, is this a good decision for you as the business owner, more or less, right? I mean, that at the end of the day, that's why we're doing this. It's not a club, right?
You pay for loyalty, not for your work. And at the end of the day, I look at it and say, okay, so in order for you to make more, you expect me to make less. And that's not a win-win. That's not okay with me. So yeah, we're going to part ways.
Right. Yeah. I had somebody that was a top performer for years, and then had a really bad year. And I gave them 20, I don't know, 30 listing opportunities, and they got most of them, but they didn't make the money that they had planned on making. And so, of course, whose fault is it? Well, now it's that she said it was, my fault, which obviously I disagreed with. And so, it's tough because you really have to value. I actually caught myself saying yesterday or last week, if nobody else knows what I'm offering, I'm still going to know what I'm offering. And if I got to burn it down to the ground, got my can of gas and my lighter, and if I got to do it, I will, and just start over because I know what I'm giving people. How do you do that and not be an arrogant jerk, though? Because, I mean, there's obviously another side to this as you're navigating it. Do you have any tips there?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm a big fan of fierce conversations, right? And this is not and should not be a confrontational conversation. This is a caring conversation. Hey, I realize that I've made some changes in the business and I may be going places where you don't want to go. Am I correct?
Right.
And they say, yeah, I'm feeling that too. So I want to make sure that we're both serving each other in the best way, so that here are my plans for the future. Do you think this is something that you want to be on board with me, or is it time to look at another better option for you? And they're going to self-discover, and that's a great conversation to have with someone that says, I do care about you. I realize where I'm going. You may not want to be with me on it, and that's okay. Let's acknowledge it, and this is how you avoid some nasty conversations.
Right. So make sure I understand you. First, you need to know where you're going, right? Before you have this conversation, you need to know where the team is headed, at least somewhat, before you can say to somebody, this is where I'm going. It might not be a direction that you want to go. And then when you make that statement, you basically say, is that correct? So you're giving them an opportunity to disagree, more or less.
Right. And give them that option. Give them the out. Just give them the easy out for them to acknowledge that what you're already feeling. And I always say this, if you feel it, they feel it too.
Yeah.
It's just kind of that ugly purple elephant. No one wants to talk about it because they don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
Right.
You're hurting other things in their life by not having that conversation. Right.
And you can also tell, I feel like too, just a general lack of enthusiasm, from the agent, if they're not on the trainings, or not helping, or, not trying to learn, not bothering you for scripts or advice or what have you, you can watch the gradual adjustment. All right. So you feel that you have this general vibe, you go to them, and you used the word self-discovery. Is that their self-discovery? You're helping enlighten something, maybe? Okay. Yeah. So maybe they don't even realize it.
They do. Again, I think a lot of times when we feel it, they feel it.
Mm-hmm.
When we're unhappy, they're unhappy. When we feel like someone is underperforming, they know they're underperforming. And there's something else that's keeping them there. So either it is the rainmaker, the leader's kind of self-acknowledgement that, hey, I realize I'm going places that you're not. Or if it is, it could be on them too. I've noticed some changes. What's going on? Are you still happy here? Is this the place you want to be? And it's okay, yes or no. And, I want to understand, I've noticed you haven't come in the office. Is there something going on I can help you with?
Absolutely.
And them where they feel comfortable to say, no, it's not where I want to be.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And so for the agents that maybe are going from maybe they're just starting a team and they keep reinventing themselves, as they start to realize that a lot of the people that they had teamed up with are no longer a good fit because of the changes that they've gone under, okay, now you've got 2 agents, now what, right? So you've had these conversations, you did everything the right way. Now, you're looking around and where do you go from there?
So what is your question on that, where everything is working after you've hired them?
Well, no, just okay, so after everybody left, right? So there was a period where you didn't have a lot of agents. Okay. What did you do first? What do you just focus on your production for now because you got to pay your own bills, or how did you handle that?
Start stripping it down.
Yeah, right.
And really I think at that point you're really clear on who you want to be as a person, the people you want to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And when in terms of recruiting or bringing people, your goal is actually to disqualify people. If I'm not excited to be in business with you, then we won't be in business together. Like, I have to love working with you.
Right.
And that's the end all be all. And where people, they get recruiting and they say, oh, well, I'm going to give you a shot. Let's just test it. Oh, we've got these, we do have the 90 days to fall back on if it doesn't work. If you're not excited about being in business with that person at the beginning of 90 days,
right.
I'd venture many people are going to prove that point.
Now, do you find that is there a percentage of experienced agents versus brand new agents that come on your team? I mean, do you find you tend to get one more than the other?
Mostly new.
Mostly new. Okay. And is that word of mouth?
A lot of it is. Every person on our team except one has been through someone that I know, or a sphere, or from someone else on the team. So all sphere based.
And it's almost an environment where everybody knows this is a safe place to learn the business. Is that a good? Now, what happens when they learn the business? Do they obviously they expect more at that point. Is that one of those things where you have that conversation?
I think that year 2 to 3 is a natural progression, right? Because the agents that start with your team, they are now starting to get referrals. Mm-hmm. I believe it's important for us to always communicate that value. That, like all businesses, there is a tipping point where if they did leave, and that's always a conversation, right? If your agents are doing well, people are going to recruit them off your team.
Right.
You have to be very clear on your value, and they have to be very clear on your value as to why they stay. No one can get it, right? People come up to our top producers all the time and say, why don't you go on your own? Like, they put the things in their head.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you just do this on your own? And they're very clear that, well, of course I can, but you don't get it. Mm-hmm. Like, they are hardcore, well, you don't get it. You're not here. You don't get to see what I see. You don't get to feel everything that this team does, how we love on their customers, how we're able to leverage them and get them more referrals. Because at the end of the day, being with us, and if at some point there's a tipping point where if they were to grow a team, and here's what's interesting, we've looked at the numbers, they would make less.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Because of the expenses involved.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
That's interesting.
They would end up making less.
Very interesting. And as far as, for them to be recruited on your team year 2 to 3, and for them to state what they're receiving from you, I would guess and say that you do a good job of helping them remember the value. Like, are there any tips you have as agents are trying to grow their teams, of ways of reminding agents on the team, this is what we bring, so to speak?
I mean, I think when we look at our team and we ask them, do you feel relief?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing, is do you feel relief in your business?
Okay.
And are we providing the outlets for you to grow and take on more as much as you want to? And what are those points? And sometimes it's different for individual agents. We have some agents that, are highly, highly involved, and we have other agents that aren't. So the admin team has to step in a little more with those agents that aren't as relationship based.
Right.
Take on both sides.
No, that's interesting. So the admin almost has to adapt to where each member of the team is at and kind of support them. How do you facilitate that conversation between the agent and the admin?
It's both. Because in agent operations, communication styles are very different.
Yeah.
So it's helping the agent understand that the admins they're going to do things on their timeline.
Right.
And it will get done, not on yours. And you also have to respect the way that they do their business. And the same thing, the admin also understanding the agents aren't in the office all day. They're going to be in appointments. You may not hear from them for a couple of hours, and just understanding, I think, when they respect each other's role and what they do to contribute, it's a lot easier, instead of, hey, why didn't you do this? You're supposed to do this for me. That's your job. Like,
right. Well, and so, like, it sounds like you've had some of these circumstances come up, and to where boundaries weren't met between admin and agents. I've had the same thing. And I almost got this picture of you with like pruning shears, and you're like, okay, we need to trim here, we need to trim here, and you're like growing this plant. So like, as far as like when you're pruning and you're coming up with these new rules, how do you do it? Is it, oh, that's a problem, we want to avoid it next time? Do you have like a weekly meeting with your admin? How do you kind of keep the ship on track, so to speak?
So now one important aspect, I think, is we allow people to fail. It is there is likely very, very few things that you could mess up that I can't fix. So know that you are going to mess up. I only need you to mess up, learn from it, and not make that mistake again.
Right.
So the agents, every day we have a daily huddle at 11 a.m.
Okay.
So admin and agents, we're all very clear on, did you get your calls made? Do you have appointments? And it's all in 15 minutes. We have 13 people in 15 minutes, kind of going through, what do you have on your agenda? What are you working on today? Mm-hmm. So everyone knows we all have jobs to do. Every Tuesday, we have an hour-long team meeting in the office. I meet with my director of operations at least once a week for an hour to go over budgets. And then we have an additional 30 minutes where we have a leadership meeting. So I'm helping her learn to have these difficult conversations. I get to pour into her to learn how to have these conversations with accountability and, maybe people that aren't showing up or aren't time blocking the way that they should, so that that's not a confrontational conversation.
Absolutely. And so the director of operations is very much involved with your agents and your admin. Would that be a good oversimplification? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, does she check in with the agents weekly, daily? Like, how is she kind of managing operations, so to speak?
So more so from a top. So she's going to look at every agent's pipeline, and she's going to communicate that to the lead agent, who will communicate out to the rest of the agents. We want to make sure that they have enough people in their pipeline, that the appointments at the ISAs we're inspecting, that they followed up, they're on track, they've talked to them, that leads are not going 2 weeks without some sort of a touch. Mm-hmm. So she's helping that part of our business.
Yeah, that's huge. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then from the admin side, does she help manage them as well, or do you manage them?
She meets with them every single week, as well as a group for marketing and listings, just how many do we have, what's going on, what events do we have coming up. She orders and coordinates events. All of our sponsorships for events, she's in charge of getting sponsors. She does a lot.
Yeah, no, that's good. And was the director of operations, by chance, was it someone who started as like an executive assistant and then slowly worked up the ranks, or was this someone you found off the street and said, will you be my director of operations?
Oh no, she was our office. Our main office is agent services coordinator. Got it. She exited that role, came on as our listing coordinator, and then our director of operations at that time became an agent at the first of the year, and she assumed her role. So they went up through the ranks.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's a theme where, you're successful, you're treating people right, and it's attracting the right people into your business. And then you're just trying to make sure that people are in the right place at the right time. Would that, again, be a good oversimplification? Yes.
And I think now where we are, where you get, there's a fine line, right? Keeping the same vibe and the same culture and growing with more personalities.
Yeah.
It's a juggle.
Yeah, it is. It is. And agent events or agent, what's the plan with getting your agents together? Do you have one? How does that work?
We do. Yeah. We just went roller skating. We shut down the whole roller rink. 80s music. We all had neon and tutus. We even did dance, little roller dance. It's on the stage. It's great. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So is there do you try to do that quarterly, or like how often? Quarterly. Okay. And, because I find that with the agent times together, you realize that you actually do like these people. You work together, but, it can become bigger than that. You can become, you can respect one another and, have one another buy into each other's business, so to speak. And and really just help catapult that into, and then once that happens, that's when it starts to explode, because now everybody's helping everybody, and it's the environment that you need to really have a successful business.
And the longevity has a lot to do with it. If you're constantly having turnover, new agents will prevent growth a lot of times. There's so much power in having agents stay with you 2, 3, 4 years. They provide such a stable environment. The new agents look up to them.
Right.
They get to develop, and a lot of times the agents just don't stay long enough for a team to really grow as fast as the Rainmaker wants.
Right. Yeah. And, I think having an environment where the agents have a part to play in their success, instead of just being handed appointments, but actually like having them participate in it, and having people that are grateful for that. I think that's a really big deal. Because I swung. I went from like, here's your appointment, meet them at 3:00. And then, now, there's not a lot of money in that for a team leader. So then I was like, all right, so we're going to bring this back. And not everybody was thrilled about that. So I think that's important, having that balance of, they give a little, you give a little. And that's why it's a good business model.
I'm pretty sure they have a say, ultimately, right, the team leader, the Rainmakers have final say, that at least they feel like they have a voice in the growth. And, if it's events and we're the team, why don't we do this? They understand we're all on a budget. We want their ideas. What would you like to see us do? Kind of a wish list, and we'll prioritize it.
Right.
And we'll decide, they're always saying, hey, do we want to sponsor this? Can we do this? Like, there's such a great environment for them to bring ideas to us that, hey, if it works and it's a budget and we can calculate a return, yeah, we're gonna look to do some extra things. So they all have a voice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're almost at the end of this session. I know that there were several items last week and this week, just items that were really, really good. And it goes back to last week, knowing who you are, where you want to go, respecting people, and allowing them to participate in the growth. And, I think that for me, those are my takeaways. I know I missed a whole bunch of stuff that you said. Is there any for the agent that's listening, either that has a small team or, is trying to grow, I'm putting you on the spot here, so I'm sorry, but do you have any parting words of encouragement or wisdom, for somebody that's trying to grow their team to be another CC Underwood?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I think just being okay with being okay with who you are, and also failing. It's not going to be perfect. You don't have to be super strict and on deadlines, and be people. Just enjoy the process, enjoy your team.
Right. And
they will help you get where you want to go.
Well, I'm just checking to see if we have any questions. And a lot of people watching. I think that this topic of self-discovery, I think that would be a really good blog post for LCA. No pressure, because I know you're busy.
It is difficult.
Studying up on myself. So, CC, thank you again for sharing with the LCA community. We appreciate it. And how can somebody get in touch with you if they want to pick your brain a little bit?
Easiest way is just message me on Facebook.
Okay, awesome.
My email is cc@sellingwithcc.com.
All right, yeah. Now, don't blow her up, guys. But if you have a legitimate question, she does have a really successful business that she's running. So,
long way to go.
Anyway, thank you, CC. We appreciate it, and back-to-back free coaching sessions for me. So this was great.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, thanks so much, CC. All right, bye.